So what we're going to start doing here is we're actually going to start reading live data from an API, which is going to be exciting. So we're going to see like pets to adopt here. And so this is going to actually come from Pet Finder, which is like one of the easiest ways to find pets to adopt. So if you see a pet on here that you want to adopt, you should definitely do it. And the Pet Finder client that you brought in, the front-end master/pet, is already all set up to do that. So I'm going to show you now how to handle asynchronous code inside of React. Okay, so what I want you to do first, again, I mentioned earlier that while you can put in different locations up here, I actually have, at least temporarily, limited this to Seattle, WA, and San Francisco, CA. Reason being is that we have one developer key and we don't want to hammer their API. So that's why we're kind of limiting ourselves to just a couple of geographical areas. This might change in the future if we can figure out better ways of doing this, but just to be on the safe side right now, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and start using some data here. So inside of app.js, sorry, this isn't app.js. This is inside of searchparams.js. We've already got in animals here, but we're also going to get the pet client up here. And underneath all these use drop-downs and things like that, we're going to use another thing from React here called use effect. Now, if you're familiar with React already, use effect is going to take the place of several of the lifecycle hooks, right? So it's going to take the place of component did mount, component will unmount, and component did update. So if you don't know what those are, then that's fine. You can learn these for the first time. But if you're coming in with some familiarity, that's what this is going to replace. So here I'm going to say use effect, and then I'm going to give it a function. And then here I'm going to say pet dot breeds dog. This is going to return a promise. You can actually see that it returns a promise. That returns a breeds response. And then here, just for now, so we can see what it's doing, I'm going to say console.log and console.error. And what this is saying, if it's the call is successful, then log out whatever the response is, and if it's not successful, then send it to console.error. So what's happening here? So use effect is disconnected from when the render is happening. So what this is actually doing is this is scheduling this function to run after the render happens. So what's going to happen is it's going to render the first time, it's going to schedule use effect to run, but then it's going to do the render first. So all of this stuff gets rendered first before anything happens inside of use effect. Good so far? All right, so this does not happen immediately. As soon as this happens, as soon as search params renders for the very first time, it's then going to run this effect. Okay? And it's not synchronous, so it's not like this happens, then immediately this happens. It happens, and then soon thereafter, this effect will run. Now, why do you want to do this? Well, you want to do this because you don't want to slow down that first render, right? You want to show your users something immediately. You don't want them to have to wait to see something. You don't want them to wait for some sort of AJAX request to come back. You want it to immediately show something and then go to the API and try and request data. So that's why we're doing this. So let's go take a look what that actually looks like. If you go over here into your pet finder, you should see here this object breeds, and then you should see it comes back right now with 257 breeds. So if I look at one of these, you can see like husky, Icelandic sheepdog. I didn't even know that was a breed, but apparently it is, right? And so it comes back with all these things back from the API. And if you look at your network tab, you'll see that this is just looking at JSX, XHR. It's going to the pet dev APIs, and it is getting that back from the API. which is great, right? Now we're getting all this information back from the API, so now we can actually set breeds to be all of these various different kinds of breeds of dogs. So what we're going to do, inside of useEffect, we'll just replace this and say, the first thing we want to do is whenever this runs, we want to update breeds to be empty array. Because if we're requesting new breeds and there's already breeds in there, then we want to clear them out. We're going to update the breed to be an empty string. This useEffect here is going to, it's going to get run whenever we're changing sets of breeds, right? So if I go from like cat to dog, I need to get a new set of breeds, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out whatever breeds were in there. So if there's like husky and poodle, I'm going to clear all that stuff out of there. And if I've selected Bichon Frise or something like that, then I need to set that to be empty string as well, because I can't have a Bichon Frise cat. So once that's done, then I'm going to say pet.breeds, which is that function that's going to retrieve that from the API. I'm going to pass in whatever animal is right there. So animal. And then I'm going to say .then. And that's going to give us back something from their API. And I know inside of that object, it's going to have a breeds. Okay. So we're destructuring out this breeds because I know that's going to come back from the API. And then I'm going to say, if you look at these objects, if we go back here to our console, notice that they are objects, right? So name, fox terrier links to something else, right? We actually just want the name. So we want to throw away all those links. We just want the names. So we have a list of objects that we want to transform into a list of strings. So how do we do that? Map. So what we're going to do is we're going to say const breed strings equals breeds.map, and we're going to turn name into name. And then here we're going to say set breeds to be breed strings. So what's going on with this? Well, we destructured out the name, right? So we grabbed poodle out of that, and then we just returned poodle, right? You also could have just had this been like breed object and then be breed object.name, right? Same thing. I just think this is a little bit more elegant. Okay, and just in case there's an error from the API, you just put console.error there. So it'll just feed whatever the error is into console.error. This would be the same as doing like E or error console.error error, right? Same thing. Okay. Oh yeah, I have these as set, rather, not update. So change this to be set, not